Hi everyone, I hope you're doing well. Do you guys remember this cringe-worthy moment? Ugh. If you don't, that's okay. Or if you didn't see the video, that's fine too. Here's a link to that. But here's also a quick recap. The graphics tore due to these tears outlined here by these arrows, which meant I had to spend quite a little bit of time and some elbow grease cleaning off the front panel to lay the new graphic, but I needed to pull the plunger to get to these little bits you see here. So how do we do that? I'm glad you asked. First, we're going to want to pull the lockdown bars and the control deck, all that stuff. You've seen it 1,000 times, so I'm really not going to go into it other than showing me pulling the power for the LED that goes under the trackball. From there, I'm going to suggest that you cover your playfield. We don't want to scratch it. We're going to grab this screwdriver and use this screwdriver here, or not. Let's try that again. We're going to use this screwdriver here, and we're going to use the iFixit kit. Why the iFixit kit? Well, it has magnetic tips. And when you drop screws in tight quarters, it's easier to grab screws with a magnetic tip. So we're going to go ahead and use them. In this case, we're going to use this number 1 Phillips head bit. We're going to pull the cable. Don't let this fool you. It's a lot harder than it looks. Now we're going to attack these 4 screws. But what I'm going to suggest with these 4 screws is that you leave this one in. Why? It'll be easier to put the plate on later. So we're going to kick this at 800 speed here to get the screws out. Then we're going to move on to the fun part. Why the fun part? Pulling the screws in the pan here is going to be interesting. I'll let Doc and Marty explain why.
My calculations are correct. When this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're gonna see some serious shit.
Oops, that was the wrong one. Let me try again.
Wait a minute. Are you telling me that this sucker is nuclear?
Hey, keep rolling there. No, this sucker's
Magnetic.
But I need a nuclear reaction to generate the 1.21 gigawatts of electricity I need.
While we don't need to generate 1.21 gigawatts or get up to 88 miles per hour, the tip of the plunger here is magnetic. So it's going to constantly want to pull the screwdriver over while you're pulling these screws out. So just take the time, take care, take it easy, go slow, and don't get frustrated when this happens. We're going to move on to the next screw here. We get that screw out, and then what we do is once that screw is loose, we're going to want to pull the plunger back a little bit and get the pan out. Now you can try to remove the screws if you want, but they're either going to collect on the tip of the plunger there or roll back into the pan like it did here. If you do happen to drop them, not a big deal. That's what a flashlight and the magnetic tip is for. Sorry for bumping the camera. Next, we're going to move on to actually removing the plunger. Now we're inside the cabinet here. We've got 4 screws that we're going to need to pull. This one on the bottom is the toughest one of all. We're going to transition again, get an inside look at the cabinet. My apologies for my pasty ass legs and ugly shoes, as well as these giant meat hooks in the shot as well. I'll get them out of the way here. So the screws can be a little tough to pull out. You just, again, take the time, take the care, take it slow. Don't be afraid to drop them. That's what the magnetic tip is for. But as I get this screw out here, I'm going to show you it's a little bit longer. See how it's longer? You're going to want to make sure that you use these when you assemble everything and you put it all back together, because the screws for the pan are a little bit shorter. My apologies for not showing you that. The other thing I want to show you here is you might need some extra leverage getting the screws out. The screws are extremely tight, and you really sometimes just can't get the kind of grip that you need on these small screwdrivers. The iFixit kit here has a little hole in the top, so you can put something in it to get that extra little bit of leverage to get the screw to turn. Once you get it to turn, then it'll pull out nice and easy. But as I said, don't worry about dropping the screw. That's what a flashlight and magnetic tips are for. So once I get this screw out here, we're going to move this at 800 speed, and we'll get the rest of the screws out. All right, once the screw is out, you'll be able to remove the plastic disc. Now it's worth noting too that the disc has two different sides. The flat side goes to the back of the machine, and then the beveled side sticks out. With that out of the way, we can now go ahead and pull the plunger out. Takes a little bit of chutzpah, if you would, to pull that out. It's usually wedged in there pretty good. Here's the front of the machine without the plunger, because now we need to put it all back together, right? So you'll see that there's some bevels on the front. We're going to go ahead and insert it. I know that sounds dirty, but we're going to go ahead and insert it in the front. But there's some caveats here. You'll notice there's some pins on the front. So those pins need to be facing up when we put the plunger back into the machine. Well, why do those pins need to be facing up? Well, the pan has holes in it, which I'm going to show you here. So you see these two little holes? Those are what the pins go into when you screw it all back together. So also make sure that when you're putting the piece back on, the face piece, that you line up the holes with the pins, because that can only go in a certain way. So the pin goes back in as well. Then we'll screw the face back on here. Once the face is screwed on, then we can go ahead and put the pan back in. But you'll notice too that I'm only using a portion of the screwdriver just to make it easier to screw in. If you can use an extended bit or a shorter screwdriver, like I said, that number 1 Phillips head bit, it'll be a lot easier to at least get everything started. We're going to kick it into 800 speed again while we put everything back together. I put the screws in this way first, and then we put the rest of the handle back on, and we use a little bit of leverage to tighten them up. With that done, and a quick test of the plunger, we can now put the pan back in. So we're going to pull the plunger back and carefully put that pan back in. Once it's in place, it's pretty firm. Now we're just going to want to lock the screws down. We're going to kick it into 800 speed here. Oh, what a pain in the ass. Sorry, guys. Let's try that again. All right, that's done. Now we can go ahead and put the top on. Now remember that screw there? That's going to help us just lock the top piece in place. What I'm also going to suggest is you do the left bottom corner of the pan top first. It'll just make it easier. And then once that's somewhat locked down, give it a second here to do that. Then we can lock the other piece down. Don't make them super, super tight, because you might need to adjust it a little bit. Now we're kicking it into 800 speed again while we get it all done. That's it. One last thing to do here is reconnect the wire for the plunger. You'll notice down at the bottom there's these grooved connections. The grooved part goes to the bottom of the connection on the pan itself. Lock it down, you're good to go. Now, I happen to have a HD machine as well, and there's a slight difference between the two. Process is almost exactly the same except for one thing. We have this extra connector here on the plunger assembly. Now that connector goes to an accelerometer, which on my machine is disconnected for now due to the placement of the solenoid, which I'm going to move eventually. Well, that's it for this one, folks. Here's a quick shot of the two machines side by side. The HD still a work in progress. Like I said, still got to move those solenoids around. And then there's that play field we're going to be replacing. The 4K still needs a topper, and that faceplate will cover all that stuff when it happens. But for now, I'd like to say thank you. I appreciate you. I appreciate your time. Please like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And as always, stay safe and be well. Take care.